back to another episode on Autism Labs podcast. And today we're going to be talking about aggressive behavior, which as a dad of a 35-year-old low-functioning, severely autistic son, we've wrestled with this our entire lives, just about. And you perhaps have too. And I am one of the worst people to talk about how to address it, which is the reason I want to have this episode, is that I think I've learned the hard way what maybe some of you will learn much quicker than me. So I want to share with you our journey. And last week I talked about our J13 culture and our J13 team. And there's an awful lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to create the kind of environment of joy and happiness and excitement that I talked about in that video. And I didn't really talk about all that work. It's never ending. It's ongoing. It is a constant challenge. We constantly have behavioral challenge surfacing with different members of our community. Our team is trained, but there's always something we didn't anticipate, or it happens in such a way that we haven't encountered before. So I want to talk about the importance of ABA. And I know some of you that might cause a negative reaction. And I'm not trying to talk about the science behind ABA. There are tons of books and articles out there about the pros, and there's some about the cons. All I can say as a parent, I've seen it work miracles for our son. But it's not ABI practice without the human element, right? There's some days where Michael, he's had a bad night. He didn't sleep very well. He gets up tired and grumpy. Rather than ABA, he just needs a hug. He just needs more love. And so that day is going to be a day where he can do some things that maybe he wouldn't normally get to do. And we're not putting as many demands on him because he just needs a little bit of a break, right? So we modify our ABA, our applied behavior analysis and therapies a bit. But there's some things that are really important. And ABA speak, there are three key elements. One's the antecedent, one's the actual behavior, and one's the consequence. And I've always hated those terms, especially antecedent. I said, okay, that comes before, but exactly what are we talking about here? Okay, so what an antecedent is that is what the precursor is to the behavior. Often it's what causes the behavior. And there may typically be more than one thing, right? So it's paying attention beforehand, or if it's after the fact, going back and doing a post-mortem and trying to figure out, okay, now what were the things that sort of set him off, right? And then the behavior occurs, right? Well, what was the behavior? And the screaming, the yelling, whatever it is. And then what's the consequence, right? How do we correct it? Or what did we do right or wrong? And this is where I give in all the time. And so I'm really bad at this. And I want to share with you, some of the exact things that have happened for us so you get an idea as to what's going on. So for instance, our son used to pinch the bejeebers out of me. I mean, literally, I would have bruises up and down my arms, and it's just awful. Or he'd pull your hair really hard. I mean, my wife had some of her hair ripped out by the roots. That's how bad it would be. Or if we let his fingernails get too long. Even yesterday evening, he dug his fingernails into my neck when he wasn't happy about something, and he can scratch you, right? He can draw blood. And other things too, right? So we've experienced all those kinds of situations, and you need to sort of be aware of what might happen, anticipate that, and then how do you get yourself out of it? We even had one situation where a police officer was driving by, and our son was out walking with one of his colleagues, and he was upset, and he was pulling her hair, and he had her pulled down. She was bending over, and the officer called in an assault. Our son's assaulting. He didn't know our son at the time, and the police chief knew who we were and intervened. But the point was, you can get pretty darn serious pretty quickly. So I want to show you a short video right now of Michael paying attention and patiently waiting with the help of a timer, when things are going well.
As long as you're staying in your seat and waiting nicely with a calm voice and calm hands, then we can have some yogurt when the timer's finished, okay?
Okay, now that's pretty cool, right? And instead of Michael screaming when he wants something like yogurt, Hayden, who's our executive director of John 13, sat him down and in a very calm and steady voice, got him to sit there and wait for 2 minutes. Sometimes it's 5 or 10 minutes, and he will sit there and wait, believe it or not, because he wants the yogurt, he wants to play basketball, or he wants the Atkins bar, whatever it might be. Now, you may say there's no way my son or daughter would do that. I mean, because they'll go nuclear in 15 seconds. Well, it took us a while to get there. I mean, the number of hours, you've heard about the 10,000 hour rule to get really skilled at playing the violin or whatever. We haven't spent 10,000 hours, but we have spent many hundreds of hours, perhaps well over 1,000 hours over years with dozens of people to get Michael to the point where he would just do what you just saw. Now, even though Michael is nonverbal, I mentioned he was low functioning, so he can't really talk. He uses his iPad to communicate. He has a few words, but they're hard to understand. So his expressive language, his ability to talk is limited, but his receptive language, his ability to hear and understand, much richer, has a much wider range of words and vocabulary that he recognizes. And that's pretty cool. And so here's another video. This one's a little bit longer, showing him doing something calmly, maybe too quickly, but calmly when he's asked.
You're finished? Awesome, thanks for letting me know. Okay, so first let's put our spoon back in the bowl. Put your spoon down. Go wash your hands. Try again. One, slow down. One. And one. Nice job. Okay, come have a seat. Let's talk.
Yogurt.
What about yogurt?
I want yogurt.
Awesome, that's great because I have half left right here. So here's what we're gonna do. First, we're going to finish unloading slowly. Then we'll rinse and load our dishes, and then we can add some more yogurt, okay? All right, first unload. Put in the sink.
So this looks pretty easy, again. And I mentioned, that we have spent so many hours doing this stuff. And here's what you got to think about, and you got to really pay attention to. So anticipate what might happen. Be aware of a situation. You start to see him going nuclear and try to intervene, right? But let's say you don't, and the behavior happens. Let's say it's screaming or yelling or something physical. What I tend to do is either yell back at him or give him attention, look him in the eye, give him the evil eye, or give in. I mean, especially if I'm in a public situation, if I'm out in the public at a restaurant or something, he's screaming and causing commotion and disruption, and he wants his sweet potato fries and he's not acting right. And I say, no, you got to sit there calmly. He doesn't like that and just start screaming. And I give in after 10 or 15 seconds. It's the worst possible thing I can do because that's what he wants. It rewards him for the bad behavior. So the bad behavior just continues, so it doesn't solve the problem at all. And ideally what you would do is remove him from the restaurant, perhaps not even return to the restaurant, pay the tab and you're out of there, or at least make him settle down outside and understand he can't behave that way if he wants to finish his dinner. And that's tough, dads, I know. Moms, it's maybe a little bit easier because mom's, in my opinion, my wife is a saint when it comes to patience. I'm not. And so that is the key to the right consequence for the right behavior. And that's what has been drilled into me over and over again because I tend to be very forgetful and I tend not to remember what I'm supposed to do when Hayden or one of our other BCBAs or one of the other staff comes and shares all this with me. But the basic thing is, and this is really counterintuitive. As a dad that was raised, I can remember when I was brought up and I misbehaved and I might get smacked, or I might, get stuck in a corner. None of that works for someone that's nonverbal. All Michael wants, and I think in many cases, I've seen this a lot of other kiddos, his buddies, is attention. And he's watching me very carefully when he's screaming. And as soon as I react, he smiles. He actually smiles, or he'll giggle, or he'll laugh, because he knows he's won. And you just can't let that happen. Whereas if I look down, I show no reaction. He can't see my eyes, he can't see my face. And he's screaming, and I'm just pointing where he needs to go, or whatever. After a couple seconds, he gets tired of it, because I'm not reacting. And he'll stop. He'll go sit on the couch. Now, some of our staff has much better, what's called instructional control than I do. Ellen, who's our Michael whisperer, and actually she can do this with a lot of the guys. She can just look at Michael and give him the stink eye and he'll stop. But it's taken her 12 years to get to that point. And unfortunately, as the father who's been with my son for 35 years, I still don't have that. Not good, Dad, but I'm working. I'm trying to get better. But what I wanted to point out when it comes to aggressive behavior is you can solve it, even the worst possible cases. We've had parents bring kiddos into our J13 community program who said he's gotten kicked out of, every program he's ever been in, and we're afraid he's going to get kicked out of this one because, he might try to punch you, he might pull his pants down in public. Who knows, right? And a few events or a few incidents occur in the first day or two or week. Well, within a couple of weeks, they're largely gone because the staff doesn't reward for that kind of behavior. It incentivizes for the right kind of behavior. If you sit and be quiet, you get the yogurt, or you get to finish your meal, or you get to go out and play basketball, or you get to play the puzzle you want to, whatever that is. So folks, parents that have almost given up on their adult child, all of a sudden are unbelievably surprised because this does work. So the key is the three things for this problem is antecedent, what's causing the behavior. Because of course, if you can fix that, if you can address that, and if it's something other than placing a demand on him, but if it's something that's relatively easy to fix or some combination of things, then of course you change the antecedent to eliminate the behavior. But if it's something that, he needs to grow and learn from, then you can't really tweak the antecedent too much. But then the behavior occurs and how you're going to intervene, what's appropriate, not show reaction, not show attention. And then if he calms down fairly quickly, then he might get what he wants fairly quickly. If he misbehaves too long, it's off the table. It's gone for the day. And this happens all the time with Michael. Or there's a timeout period or whatever it is. It's not anything physical. It's not anything that jeopardizes safety, but it is definitely a way to teach, a way to reward that's appropriate, and it makes incredible progress. And we've seen this over and over and over again. So the last thing I would say, and this is another area that I fall down on tremendously, is consistency, right? If I'm tired and it's the end of the day and I just want him to calm down or go to bed or whatever, I'll give in. And I can't do that, right? Because then he knows. And again, he remembers. Michael's got an incredible memory. He'll remember what he did to win. And he'll try me and test me again and again and again. Whereas for some of the colleagues that never give in, he won't even attempt it anymore, right? He knows that if that behavior surfaces, he's not going to get what he wants and some other things may happen. And so be as consistent as you possibly can. And if you can do that, both in home and away from home, on the job, wherever it is, I think you're going to find an incredible change. It may take a few days, a few weeks, a few months, in our case, a few years, but the payoff is worth it. Let me know if this works for you. If it doesn't work, or if you have any questions or suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. Just please email me at mike@autismlabs.com. mike@autismlabs.com. Have a great rest of your week. See ya.